Before I go to the next page, since this is the calculator section that's going to be given Thursday, I want to show you what I did. So I plugged that in there, and I could do that before I even start. And then I can look and see one of the roots is at 0, one of the roots is at -2, which if you look right there, it's -2. One of the roots is at 2, and one of the roots is at 3. So if I decide to do the PQ, I can totally do it, and I already know all the roots. Additionally, I could still do grouping and do all this factoring that I did, but then know what the answer should be so I head through the right path. With that being said, that's how I'm going to approach the next problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to type in the problem, x to the 4th plus 3x squared minus 4. So when I graph it, I can see there's 2 answers that I have that are real, but there's 4 actual roots, which means that tells me I'm going to get 2 reals and 2 imaginaries as my answers, where my real answers I know will be 1 and -1, and I'll have 2 imaginaries, okay? So now that I know that, that gives me a little bit of confidence. There's different ways to go. So what I'm going to do is what I know best, which is factoring. 2 numbers that multiply to give me 4 and add to give me 3 are 4 and 1. The bigger number is positive. But since it's to the 4th, I have to square it. This lends itself to square root, which is x minus 1, x plus 1, which tells me x equals 1 and x equals -1. I have now proven that I got what I saw in the graph. Now I have to look here, and I need you guys to be careful. Because this is plus, you can't square root it. It can only work if it's minus. So I have to set that equal to 0. So I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to go -4. -4 equals x squared. Square root. I have a negative. It's imaginary. 2i plus or minus is x. Therefore, x equals 2i. And x equals -2i. Those are my zeros. Now, I want to show you, if I wouldn't have seen that, how I could do it with a PQ. PQ, 1, because that's x to the 4th, but I don't have an x cubed, so 0. My x squared was 3, my x was 0, and my number was -4. My possibilities, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, from that, I know that 1 works. Bring down the 1. 1 times 1 plus 0. 1 times 1 plus 3. 1 times 4, boom, that works. I know the other one is -1 because I copied it off my calculator. So now I'm going to look here, 1, -1, 0, 4, boom. Now I know the other 2 are imaginary. This lends itself to x squared. Let me back up. This was 4. I found 2 of them. There's 2 left. Plus 0x plus 4, which lends itself to x squared plus 4. Subtract 4. Square root. X equals plus or minus 2i. Okay? It doesn't matter how you do it. Let's go to the next one. Create a polynomial in either factored form or standard form from the following information. If you do both, it will be bonus. Factored form is the easiest for me, but I'll still show you both. So I know it's going to be x to the 4th, and I know that because there's 1 root, 2 roots, and a bounce means this happens twice. So if I'm going to write that, that's x minus 3, but the bounce means squared. The opposite of -2 is +2, and when I have a 0, there's an x right there. So let me rewrite that. Squared x plus 2. But the problem is that they gave me a point. So I've got to figure out what value goes right there. So when I plug in -1 and 8, I can get them to be equal. So I don't know what that is yet. I can put like a little question mark. So I'm going to have x is -1. -1 minus 3 is -4. Squared is 16. -1 plus 2 is 1. So that simplifies in a sense to -16. And I'm going to make the question mark like an x because it's what I don't know. And the problem is the y value is 8. Well, if I divide by -16, I get that my x equals -1/2. So what I just found was what's supposed to go in front of the x. Now I have everything I need. So I can write it in factored form as y equals -1/2 x minus 3 squared times x plus 2. And that is my answer in factored form. And you'll have enough space on the test, okay? So don't worry about that. Standard form, what I would do is I would do a whole lot of boxes. I would only do this if I had time, by the way. So x minus 3 squared means x minus 3 times x minus 3, which is x squared minus 6x plus 9. Then multiply that by x plus 2. When you do the 2 by 3, you end up getting x cubed minus 4x squared minus 9, plus 3x plus 18. Then you multiply that by -1/2 x, and you get y equals, distribute, -1/2 x to the 4th plus 2, because half of 4 is 2, 2x cubed minus 3/2 x squared minus 9x. Now, if I had even more time, what I would do is I would set this equal to this to make sure they're the same. What I would also do even before doing standard form, I would graph this in the calculator, make sure that it crosses at 0, -2, and 3. It bounces at 3. And then if you go menu, trace, graph, trace, it should trace to the point -1, 8. Once you know this guy's good, come back at the end of the test, do this, then send this equal to this, and hopefully I'm right. I could have made a mistake. I'm going really fast, but I think you get the game. So that's what you're going to get for Thursday.